Bar for bar album reviews. Logic, No Pressure. No Pressure is the sixth and final album from Maryland rapper Logic. With the announcement of the album, Logic also announced that he would be retiring from rap to focus on being a dad. Personally, I'm glad that he's taking some time off to be with his family because he can afford to now. Before we get into the review, I want to make it clear that I don't hate Logic. It's more that the impressions that he gave us from his first album, Under Pressure, led me to believe that he was going to be going the way of Kendrick or Cole. Instead, what we got is what I feel a great waste of talent. It sucks because Logic is one of those people that are hella into hip-hop and rap and actually has skill, but he instead focused more on commercial success rather than living in the underground, which is totally fine. He even mentioned on the live stream for his album release, which I've only seen snippets of, where he says something along the lines of, if someone offered you $22 million to make commercial songs, you'd take it because that means you'd be able to provide for your family. And I respect that point of view, and I'm glad that he addressed it. With all that out of the way, there was a lot of questions surrounding this album. Mostly the question of, would Logic give his fans what they've been wanting for years? And the answer to that question is a resounding yes. On his final album, he's finally returned to form. Getting into the album itself, though, it comes in at a total runtime of 59 minutes with 15 tracks. And the whole album really feels like a proper follow-up to his debut album, Under Pressure. Throughout the project, we see the return of Thalia, who's at this point basically just a voice assistant, telling you that what Logic's been doing, during the recording of this album, as well as just kind of snippets of the process itself. She doesn't really add or take anything away this time around, so I won't really be talking about her too much. Another thing of note is that with the announcement of this album, Logic basically said that there was no pressure when getting everything ready. Like, he was able to put all the money he wanted to into it, and he was able to get everything that he needed for the album, especially the samples. So the album starts off with the track No Pressure. And this song brings back a more boom bap sound that Logic is known to flow well on. The whole intro of the song has an excerpt from Orson Welles that Logic provides kind of like ad-libs and input on. It's fun because it touches on his previous albums, the unreleased Ultra 85, which might actually just be No Pressure relabeled, and also reminds us that he's into video games with a feature from Solid Snake himself. When I first listened to this track, I enjoyed it, but was still cautious because I'd been fooled by Logic before. Overall, the track is solid and an enjoyable intro. The second track on this album is Hit My Line. This is, to me, where Logic would have to really show that he's not going to be overly corny or talk about the same subject matter that he's been going on about for the past few albums. The chorus plays on the chorus of Ice Cube's It Was a Good Day, where he mentions that he has a gun in the glove box. It also alludes directly to the car chase between the police and O.J. Simpson. The rest of the track is really just him talking to God, asking for God to hit his line so that they can talk and have a better understanding of what's going on. He also touches on the addictions that he's faced in his life and how he's come to the conclusion that he's done with it all. With this line, like a fiend that needs fixing, that done battled addiction. Been addicted to money, been addicted to fame, addicted to arenas and people screaming my name. But it's time to let go, it's time to make a change. This could be seen as him being done with his addictions and that he wants to focus his time and energy onto something more productive than fame. It could also just be that because this is his last album and he's done. Overall, though, it's not a bad song, and also interestingly enough, it's also the only song on this album without an explicit tag. This brings us to GP4, which is the fourth installment of his Growing Pains series of songs. This one flips Outkast's Elevators, which is one of my favorite Outkast songs. And one line that I really want to draw attention to is the first line of his verse, where he goes, I live by the beat, I die by the beat since 1990. I live by the beat, I die by the beat like MPC Akai, who I name William after because I get bills from these beats. On one hand, it's further sampling Outkast, specifically 3 Stacks on Elevators, where he says, I live by the beat, I live by the beat like you live check to check. If it don't move your feet, then I don't eat, so we like neck to neck. On the other hand, it gives people a better look into where he got the inspiration for William Kai on The Incredible True Story. And also kind of plays on Bill being a nickname for William. Overall though, solid track. Next we have Celebration, which features Bobby Boy Records artist Silas. This whole song is really just about celebrating Logic's accomplishments up until this point, so it makes sense to have his own artist featured on it. It also flips Kanye's Celebration track too, but I don't really care for this track too much just because it's the type of Logic song that I'm not really a huge fan of. There's definitely worse songs that he's made, but something about it just has me skipping this track pretty frequently, but I do see the appeal of it. Next we have Open Mic / Aquarius 3, which samples A Piece of Light by The Roots. I actually really enjoy the song because it's like the whole first half has this vocal effect on Logic that makes it sound like this is really at an open mic. He also shouts out The Roots with the line, I knew I always wanted to do more like The Roots in '95. Which is in direct reference to their album, Do You Want More, which dropped in '95. This also leads into a fairly introspective line that I feel might get glossed over, where he goes, and I'll be sure to do more for my family than mine did, because hip-hop rhymes taught me more than my mom's did. Didn't drink till I was 25 because I'm a mom's kid. All I knew was alcoholism and prison. It's a pretty deep line there, like where we get a little bit more info about Logic and his family life. There's another line that actually gives us another look into Logic's life on the second verse, where he says, money don't complete us, but it feeds us. It can lead us to depression. Being rich is not a blessing, fame is not a blessing. Wasn't until I was rich and famous that I learned that lesson. What's the meaning of life? To live it, I'm guessing. It's, just a really introspective thought that he's arrived at after all this time. And it also really ties into his retirement and what he wants to do with his retirement. He also continues the trend of making references to this being his last album and focusing on his family, which I really do enjoy. And even if the second verse kind of sounds a little corny. I also do like the nod to Under Pressure with the line, living life like this so crazy, hip hop is amazing, one day you're on top and the next day you want to erase them. This is a play on his line from I'm Gone on Under Pressure, where he says, living life like this is so crazy. The world is amazing. One day you're on top and the next you're having your baby. If you haven't noticed a theme here, this album is a proper and direct sequel to Under Pressure with many references that make more sense if you have listened to Under Pressure, which most of you guys should have. This song then brings us to another one of my favorites on this album, Soul Food 2. And this song is apparently what the first Soul Food track was supposed to sound like, and to me, it sounds like the first got pretty close, unless they're talking about the second half. Anyways, it's funny because he mentions the idea that many fans have where they only like an artist for their old stuff, rather than the direction that the artist has gone. I think the general consensus with Logic, though, is that his old stuff is quite a bit better than his newer stuff. We do also get a beat switch here, like I mentioned, which starts to sample the beat to Lupe Fiasco's Gold Watch. That could be the beat that he was trying to get cleared from the beginning, not sure. After this beat switch though, the whole verse is him basically taking us through the story of the incredible true story, which is pretty cool for those that needed a summary. I guess it's possible that, the sample of Gold Watch is what they were trying to go for, but I don't know. I really did enjoy the song though, and another thing to point out is at the beginning of his first verse, we have another callback to Under Pressure with the line, goddamn, conversations with people, crazy how one day legends forget that they equal. Which is a callback to his first lines on Soul Food 1, where he says, goddamn, conversations with legends, crazy how one day your idols can turn into your brethren. Just another cool callback. The next track is Perfect. It's also the shortest track on the album, and the only one to have a more turn-up feel for it. It's not for me though. I didn't really care for it. But you might, so check it out if you want a turn-up song. The next track, Man I Is, samples Outkast again, with the sample being from Spotty Yachty Dopalicious, as well as a few other samples. I don't really have anything special to point out with this song. I do enjoy it, but maybe because he's just speaking fairly candidly and not in metaphor. And then there's Dad Bod. Only thing I have to say about this track is that I appreciate that he referenced Chance with the line, "And I love my wife like I'm Chance." This brings us to 5 hooks, which is only called this because apparently there's only 5 hooks on this album. Go check, I'll wait. I didn't believe it at first either until I really started thinking about it, or when I actually went back. This song kind of takes us through Logic's career, mostly leading up to Under Pressure when he got signed to Def Jam, and became the luckiest artist on Def Jam, because, you know, Def Jam is pretty shitty if you listen to artists. He mentions how this album was actually undershipped, but now he's the face of Def Jam and probably the most profitable artist signed to Def Jam. It's kind of crazy just because Def Jam's known for just being the worst with like releases and just treating their artists. Anyways, this brings us to the next track, Dark Place. And this track really has Logic opening up about his mental health. And he did it in a way that really makes you want to listen to what he has to say. He touches on the anxiety of being a public figure and, you know, just looking up your name to see what people are thinking about you or talking about. I'm not going to go too into it, and I'll just let the song do the talking for me. But one takeaway is the last line of his verse where he says, "It's okay to be sad sometimes and tired of shit, I guess." Which is really something that people who struggle with mental health issues tend to have a hard time reminding themselves of. It's also just interesting because typically when Logic brings up these sorts of songs, he also brings some positivity by the end of the track. But we didn't get that this time. I'm not even going to talk about A to Z. I understand the point of it. I understand it's fun, but it's whatever to me. The second part is cool though, where we get a snippet of a demo from Logic. That's cool. Heard 'Em Say is a pretty uplifting and motivational track, which really could act as the final track for the album. I mean, I could have totally seen the project ending here. And honestly, I did think that it would end here when I first listened to it. And I guess technically it's the end of No Pressure because we get the statement from Thalia at the end where she says, "This concludes the No Pressure program. No Pressure Ultra 85. Welcome to Ultra 85." Which then leads in the song Amen. The track Amen doesn't really touch on anything surprising. It's basically got Logic praying and thanking God for his success. And then the final track, Obediently Yours, is really just an Orson Welles speech where, I mean, given what's going on currently with racism in America, it's a fairly appropriate inclusion. However, I feel it doesn't really fit the theme of the album. Anyways, this album was definitely a return to form for Logic, in my opinion. He brought back many of the things that I first found exciting about him, primarily the rhyming and the beat selection. This is definitely his best work since Under Pressure and The Incredible True Story. Another thing that I touched on slightly a little bit earlier was the mention of Ultra 85. There's many parts of this album where it almost sounds like this album is intended to be Ultra 85, but then they got all these samples cleared and they're like, oh, okay, well, we'll just make this a follow-up to Under Pressure. Or maybe he's just leaving the Ultra 85 idea out there for his inevitable return to rap, because no one ever retires from rap. I guess we'll see in a couple of years when he comes back. My favorite tracks on this album are Soul Food 2, Open Mic / Aquarius 3, GP4, and Dark Place. Although I didn't love this album, I do appreciate that Logic made an effort to put out some of his best work to date. I mean, who knows, maybe after listening to it some more I'll enjoy it even more. Anyways, I wish nothing but the best for Logic in his life outside of music, because I know how important it is to him to be with his family and to be there for his son. I'm glad that after all this time, he's basically able to do whatever he wants and enjoy life. But like I said, I know he'll be back. No one ever retires from rap. I mean, listening to this album kind of made me sad because it's like, damn. Like, Logic was one of those people that I was listening to back then, and I'm like, now he's retiring. So it's kind of bittersweet. Like, I'm glad that he's retiring, but even though I wasn't the biggest fan of him, it's just kind of like, oh, I guess he's gone now. Let me know in the comments below what you thought of this album. Is it a actual proper return to form for Logic, or am I just saying things? Let me know. And also remember to like and subscribe if you want to see more content like this. Anyways, thank you for watching and stay safe out there.